Alright guys, welcome to the shop again. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to take a real quick minute to talk about limb design on your Reflex Deflex bows if you're attempting to make one with me. I've got in front of us here 3 different bows, 3 different designs, but all basically the same concept. So we're dealing with 3 reflexed and deflexed bows. The one in the front here is the bow that I made in my videos, the little 8 video installment of Reflex Deflex bamboo backed hickory, or not hickory but ipe. And then I've got one that shows a little more deflex in addition to that reflex, so limb shape being similar but a little more deflex. And then lastly, this bow here, concentrated reflex out near the tips, kind of approaching very mild recurve, if not like a flipped tip sort of scenario. These are all unstrung at the moment, and we're going to talk about the difference in terms of, well, you can see the different limb shapes here, and I will show you how to do each different one, but the construction method is the same. So I constructed each belly piece to or tillered each belly, tillered the backs. Everything about these is exactly the same in terms of production for the parts. The only difference would be in the methodology for gluing them together. Ultimately, it just has to do with how far out onto the limb you wrap that cord or the rubber bands. So in this bow, I only wrapped out to, I'd say right to about here, just to get it bending back. On this bow, I probably wrapped out to about mid-limb. And this one, it's obvious to see just that I wrapped all the way out to right here where it takes this really pronounced reflex bend right there. All right, so it has everything to do with how far out we wrap the rubber bands to decide how deep of a deflex we get, or how late of a reflex, pardon me, that we get. I'm going to string these up right quick and just kind of show you the difference in the tiller on each one. All right, so here we are all strung up, and you can see the difference in the limb shape based upon the relaxed shape, or the limb original limb shape. So we've got this original bow that was mostly reflexed, and you can see that in its strung or braced condition, it looks pretty much like a straight limbed bow. All right, so the tiller on that would look very similar to just a straight limbed bow, because there really wasn't a whole lot of deflex in that bow to start with, and so it's not going to bend toward the string early. It's going to bend toward the string during the length of its whole limb. Now this next one back had more pronounced deflex, and you can see as a result those limbs kind of straighten out as they make it to brace height. All right, so that it almost looks like the limb doesn't have any tiller to it. It's almost just straight. Okay, but don't be confused. That does in fact have an even bend to it. It just has to bend more so to full draw to manifest an exactly similar bend as this. And then finally, there is such a pronounced reflex at the tip of this particular bow that you'll see it maintains that reflex even in the strung environment, or even when it's at brace height. Now at full draw, that reflex does not come out. Okay, so that pretty much stays in place, kind of like a recurve through the whole draw and the shot. Now here's kind of the difference between these 3. At a full draw, this one has the absolute least amount of string angle, right? And so as you come to full draw, you really don't recognize any kind of stack or anything like that. It is a very smooth type of shooting bow, easy to draw to full draw, easy to get a little more consistency with it. Not so bad on the eyes either. It's a very pretty looking bow. Next one, and you'll notice it's even shorter. Little better, you know, the string angle. I mean, not better than this one, but it still maintains a tighter string angle at full draw, even as in a shorter bow. And so you can get some pretty consistent draw with that. There's a minimal stack, very efficient shooter. You know, we do not dedicate any amount of limb to this sort of reflex or late reflex. And you'll notice the back bow is longer than the other two. And I did that to kind of help me ensure that I didn't overstrain the working portions of the limb. But finally, this front bow. So this is going to have the widest string angle at full draw. And it, of course, sets ahead of the grip more so than the other two. Both this bow and this bow, basically the tips are right in line with the grip. So like right, 0 string follow, 0 setback at the grip. This front bow sits ahead, the tips sit ahead of the grip by about 1.5 inches. So it's got a lot of reflex to it. And you know, the general convention would tell you that it's going to be, well, it's a higher stressed bow, and that it's going to be a little more efficient, or it's got more power within its limbs than the other two. But I'll tell you that it stacks beyond about 26 or 27 inches of draw. It does shoot smoothly. Don't get me wrong, because the tips are small. It's a well balanced bow, but you really have to be in tune to getting a consistent anchor point, you know, and your mechanics have to be just right to get that bow to shoot its best, where the back bow is by far the most forgiving, and this is just kind of, the center bow is kind of the best of both worlds. Okay, so that's what those different limb designs will give you. Everything about these bows is the same. They could, any one of them could have been glued up in the same profile as the next one over. So there you go. Just a little quick video on how these different shapes manifest themselves at brace height, and kind of a general idea of where you're going to go at full draw. I'm not going to take any time and put them to full draw, guys. It's evident right at brace height where you stand with string angles, right? So biggest string angle, smaller, smallest. And you are going to recognize that at full draw. Right now I'm doing the bamboo back and belly, but I'm going to post this up right in the middle of the cycle here, because I've got a lot of guys talking to me about making a bow along with me and asking some questions, and I just wanted to make sure that I got this out there so that you can get the desired bow shape that you want. I mean, basically these are all reflex deflex, but you guys can tell very quickly each one's a little bit different. You know, there's one that you're after, and you're going to want to emulate that gluing process to get the shape that you want. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.